Hi, everyone, and welcome to Musings of an Earthbound Alien. In today's show, we're going to take a look a little bit more about myself. I'll introduce me, as well as introduce the show as to what sort of direction we're going to go with it, and some of the topics that we might look at coming down the road. Then we're going to jump right into, well, no other way to say this, alien probing. You're going to want to sit for that one. And we'll take a look at the state of human affairs as to where I see the human race is today. And that we'll try and keep as light as possible. But you want to cash those bonds now. See you in a bit. Hi, and welcome back to Musings of an Earthbound Alien. I'm your host, Bill, and I'll be taking you along this journey. Hopefully, we'll have many more episodes, and we'll see where we go with this. Just to introduce myself, I am an author of speculative fiction. I have written a number of books that I'll throw up on the side here. You'll see that most of the books are based on military sci-fi, but I've also done some other fictional work, short stories, novellas, that sort of thing. I am a 1980s Cold War warrior. I spent 10 years in the Canadian Armed Forces. I spent 5 years in the Canadian Artillery and 5 years in Royal Canadian Armored Corps, Armored Recce, and thoroughly enjoyed all of it. And that's where I get a lot of my ideas, actually, is from that time. I'm an unabashed geek. I make no apologies for that. I am a big Trek fan, a Trekkie. It's one of the many stories that I really enjoy. There's so many books from the various timelines. Not a big fan of J.J. Abrams, but we'll get into that some other time. But I'm also an avid reader of science fiction and science fact and history. I think a lot of the history that's out there, a lot of the real science go into science fiction, go into the making of science fiction in a lot of ways. A number of authors throughout time have really pulled from reality into that fictional realm. I'm a big fan, for example, of C.S. Forster, who wrote the Horatio Hornblower series, and it's just a fantastic series. Throughout this show, in other episodes, we'll actually take a look at some various books that you might also find interesting. I'm a student of social behavior and human cultural conduct, and one of the things that we'll touch on at the end of this episode is on the human conduct as it is today. I am somewhat opinionated, I've been told, but don't hold that against me. I will listen to you. I'll take your suggestions. Yes, you will be wrong, of course, but hey. But yeah, I do actually, I can change my mind. I do listen to people. So it's important that dialogue is exchanged and we learn from each other that way. Musings of an Earthbound Alien is really our opportunity, my opportunity to present to the geek and the non-geek alike things that are fun, interesting, humorous, satirical, sometimes poignant stories about a slew of topics that really some of us didn't even know we cared about and most likely will never care about again. I'll take you outside the studio on occasion. We'll look at having some guests either in the studio with me or online, especially these times, probably mostly online. The other part of the show that is actually very important is you. I want your feedback. I want your opinions, and I want your story ideas that I can look at later on. I want you to be part of the journey as we go from obscurity to sort of a vague obscurity, where we take the show in the direction that you want to see it within reason. Remember, I am opinionated, so but yeah, we'll see where we go with that. A number of shows we'll look at down the road will include topics on political situation in the world today. We'll look at environmental. We'll look at movies, books. We'll look at a number of different things that are going to be interesting on so many different levels. But coming up next, we're going to talk about one of your favorite subjects and mine, alien probing. And you're going to want to sit down for that one. And we'll also, like I said before, we'll also look at how I see the state of human affairs today and where the human race is going. And you're going to want to sell off whatever bonds and stocks you have because it ain't going anywhere. But you'll find out more in a minute. Be right back. Welcome back to the show, and we're going to get right into the heart of tonight's topic, alien probing. What's up with that? Is it aliens come in hundreds of thousands of light years to visit with us lowly rednecks of the galaxy? Throughout the decades that I've been around, I have heard of stories that talk about so-and-so being abducted or cows being whatever. And a lot of the stories involve aliens probing one's orifice, if you will. One's derriere, buttocks, ass. And even in books, there's a lot of books written, science fiction, of course, a couple of so-called factual books. Yeah, factual my ass, no pun intended, that talk about aliens visiting Earth, traveling hundreds of thousands of light years, enduring hardships just to stop by and say hello to us, lowly, humble, redneck humanoids, which, when you look at it and you get right down to it, could be argued that we are on the evolutionary scale of pond scum compared to those other alien advanced life forms that are coming here. There are thousands of references in popular culture of the time about, at the time, about the reasons aliens might have traveled to our little part of the galaxy. Let's face it, we're stuck in the edge of a relatively small, nondescript arm of what some in the galactic empire might actually say is, well, quite frankly, butt fuck nowhere, which might come back to why aliens are coming to Earth. But anyway, we'll see where it leads us. Many of the stories about aliens coming throughout the decades have them, if I can use the nondescript them, build in great monuments, either on their own or with the assistance of the human population at the time. For example, the Great Pyramids, you know the ones I'm talking about. The most famous of these are found in Egypt, Brazil, Mexico, just to name a few. Okay, to name three specific ones, but the more obvious ones. Even the giant-sized Peruvian Nazca geoliths, or carvings in the ground. They were said to have been created by aliens, since they can only be seen in their full grandeur from the air. The myth of aliens creating these, or the natives of the time creating them for these sky gods, aliens to some, persisted for years and still does persist even today among some, let's call them devotees of alien mythos. I know you came here to tune in to listen to me talk about alien probing. And I will get to that, but context is everything, let's face it. Without proper context, we're really not going to get to the meat and, of things. So let's push on. Where did I leave off? I get distracted once in a while. According to some of the more complex alien stories that relate to these mammoth building projects, the reasoning for them seems to be twofold. The first appears to be a reference or altar for the human population to worship their alien overlords. Humans built them, for example, with the help of their alien gods for worship, or the aliens built them for the humans to worship them. Either way, that's just pretty sad, to be honest with you. For example, why would such advanced aliens travel hundreds, as I said before, or thousands of light years for lowly primitive humans to worship them is beyond me. There is no logic, there is no rhyme or reason why they would want to do that. So let's just scratch that one off the logical. Oh, you're hearing my puppy walk. Bella, say hi to the people. Woof. I'm not doing another take, so forget it. This will not end up on the blooper reel. You're seeing this live in person as it happens. But the second, equally less likely reason is a means to navigation. Really? Advanced aliens are coming to Earth to travel, again, these vast distances over an enormous amount of time to visit the sad, ancient, backward population of Earth and only to get lost? Again, that seems a rather silly, if not stupid, reason or suggestion for why aliens would visit us. But again, I might be veering off topic. Yes, you distracted me. And that's what Bella looks like up here. But I guess the main question is, why would an advanced alien race come to Earth to probe human rectums? What's it all about that the human posterior has aliens so fascinated? This is a $64 question. Let's face it, it doesn't make sense. Personally, I think a whole bunch of rednecks that supposedly got captured probably ended up drunk as a skunk and decided to probe themselves, but too embarrassed to actually admit anything, they decided to make up this cockamamie alien abduction story. I mean, come on, really? The thing is, it's not just in where you would consider North American redneck country that this happens. These stories persist around the world in many cultures about aliens coming to Earth. For example, during the 70s, especially during that hippie era, which I was there, but I wasn't a hippie. There were a lot of stories abound where aliens came to Earth to mutilate cows. Again, here's an advanced species of humanoid or some other form, multi-tentacle, jelly-like octopus-type creatures, whatever. And they come to Earth to cut perfect squares or whatever in a cow or in a goat, or again, probe the human anatomy. It boggles the mind why anyone would even go that far, let alone, come up with these stories. What possessed the human population on a global scale, whether it happened in China, whether it happened in Russia, Eurasia, South America, Africa, the European continent, England, especially in Scotland. There's something wrong where the thistles grow, waist high, but they all wear kilts and nothing underneath. Sorry, I know. I'm going to get tons of email from Scottish individuals that are offended by that, but that's for another topic, by the way, where we'll talk about what offends you. But what offends me right now, getting back on topic, is this whole alien probing thing. It doesn't make sense. It's completely illogical. But again, the fascinating part of this is why the human race almost around the same time, over the last, let's say, 50 years, right around where mass broadcasting, not just newspapers, but radio and television took off. We start seeing and hearing these stories. Part of it could be the popular media, the mass market of science fiction books. The late 40s, 50s, we saw a explosion of science fiction stories. A lot of them dealt with these monstrous aliens that came to Earth either to colonize the Earth, kill off the humans, eat the humans, or probe the humans for experimentation. And my theory, my take on all of the research that's out there is that a lot of what we saw, a lot of what we read back then as a collective sort of took off in the unconscious mind. I mean, here's a perfect example of the human mind running amok on a global scale, mostly in North America, but not just there, is when Orson Welles did War of the Worlds. When he did his radio show about War of the Worlds, and people tuned in late because at the beginning of the program, he did say, this is a work of fiction. This is a radio drama. Essentially, he told the population, the listening population, that it wasn't real. But anyone that tuned in after that, there was mass hysteria. There was the belief, because everyone without knowledge believed just about anything they read at the time, for good or bad. But it was difficult for them to comprehend that how could, on this national radio program that they had just tuned into, all of a sudden announcers and reporters in the field were coming on and talking about these massive alien attacks, these tri-legged aliens. There's a couple of really great movies out there, by the way. If you're a movie buff, you have to see The War of the Worlds in the original black and white / color version. I'll put a screenshot of that one up. But again, around that same time, people started believing. And even after it was proven and it's shown to people that, look, this was a mistake, this wasn't really real, that it was a radio show, how silly and how foolish can you be? The problem is it was already in the psyche, the human psyche, that there's a certain grain of truth to these. Obviously, not everyone believed this stuff, but some people did believe it. And then you started hearing, even back then, about conspiracies, the Roswell incident. It could, who knows? For all we know, there could have been an alien crash. But I suspect that with Carrot Top being the fucking president of the United States right now, unless they didn't elect to tell him what really goes on in Area 51, trust me, he would have blabbed everything he knew about the so-called aliens. So I don't actually believe that there are aliens buried or alive or being experimented on in Area 51. That's the stuff of cartoons and some really cool old movies and some new ones that really don't do it justice. But, and again, I digress. We are talking about probing of one's derriere by aliens. What you can sort of see where I'm leading up to is that the way that the culture of the day moved along the stories, every story became more fantastical. Every story became more believable to those individuals that are susceptible to believe in all of these conspiracy things. which again, that's for another show about these so-called conspiracists. Anyway, but the probing aspect of it, no one that even believes it can truly explain why they think that aliens probe. Trust me, I have it from reliable sources that there is no alien probing going on. No one wants to probe Uranus, either on Uranus, or on Earth. It isn't happening. Never had happened. Never will happen. This is really starting to sound like an episode of Big Bang. I'm sure they did this one sometime. You can let me know in the comments. But let's just say that the topic of alien probing really isn't so much a topic of realistic, serious discussion. It is one where it is a fascinating, if not bizarre, trip into the human psyche for those people that believe in this happening. Anyway, I think we spent at least a little bit on that topic. It has not, I am sure, enlightened you. I am sure that I've offended a bunch. Tough noogies. We're human beings. You're going to be offended. If you're not offended, then you're an alien or a machine. But so what if you're offended? Take it with a grain of salt. Enjoy it for the humor that it is. And have a Coke and a smile and relax. Stand by for my thoughts on where the human race is going. Again, you don't want to change the channel. Stick around. Now that we're done with alien probing, we can put this little probe away. It's not mine. Don't get any ideas. I'm holding on to it for a friend. Anyway, where's the human race? In my humble opinion, the human race is doomed. We've got, at best, several more decades. At worst, several more weeks. I see the human race up till now. When I say now, I don't mean this second. I mean now as in within the last 20 to 50 years. Up to this point, this epoch, we have been steadily progressing. 3 steps forward, 1 step back. Some years, mostly the war years, all the war years, not just World War I, II, Korea, Vietnam, and everything else that's happened in between. But even before that, Battle of Agincourt, 100 Years' War, 60 Days' War, War of 1812, countless civil wars, even counting those as those steps back. The Cold War, remember me, Cold War warrior? Even looking at that, we have still progressed those 2 steps out of the 3. And we've made some incredible strides. If you look at technological, psychological, medicinal, or medical advances, the treatment of mental health, we really have come a huge, massive leap, ginormous leap forward. On a technological level, on an evolutionary level, we are those aliens that I talked about back then compared to the early humanoids, the ones that crawled out of, that crawled down from the trees on the African plains and moved out amongst the world to hunt and gather. That's the evolutionary leap, the difference between the two. However, I contend that in the last 50 to 100 years, we have started moving backwards. We have gone 3 steps back for every 1 step forward. I think we're not turning that corner. As we gain knowledge, what I see as knowledge has become myth. Knowledge, for example, of the atom, knowledge of where we are, our place in the universe, knowledge of our place even on our own planet, race relations. There's a, and I'll get to a couple other points in a minute, but this is where we see that falling back. I don't see us progressing. I see maybe that we've recognized some issues, but we haven't done anything about those issues. We've recognized the fact that unless you're white, you really don't have the full advantage. And now let me clarify, let me quantify that. Unless you're white with money, or if you have a slightly darker skin tone with money, that is the group, that is the people that have those privileges, that have those opportunities. If you're white and have no money, the color of your skin is irrelevant. There's no privilege there. You think you have privilege. Someone with a slightly darker skin might think you have privilege, but if you don't have money on this planet, you're screwed. You can't eat, you can't live, you're living in the slums, you can't go to the schools that you want to go to, the best schools, and the schools you do go to are essentially underfunded. They have the worst teachers. My apologies. They have some of the worst teachers. There are some people out there that have gone into teaching, for example, that they'll bend over backwards. They will move mountains to educate the kids that they are charged with. But in general terms, I'm not talking specifics, I'm talking in general terms, we still have far too much poverty in the world. We have entire countries that, let's face it, their entire social system is so fucked up that it's wow. They're still in the class structure. They're still, again, unless you are privileged within that country, you're screwed. You're living in the slums. You are literally cleaning toilets for a living and seen as the underbelly, the underclass. You are not able to get up from that level. The human race should have progressed. It's the 21st fucking century, people. The human race should have progressed to the point where we don't have the amount of poverty we have, where people have housing, where mental health is treated as a health issue, where people with mental health develop mental issues, where people with physical and invisible handicaps are treated as equals. But they're not. In many countries, that doesn't happen. Where we have so many fucking labels that the color of your skin, whether you have hair, straight hair, curly hair, doesn't make any difference. Whether you have stuff all of that, all of a sudden, is where you sit in the universe as far as the human race is concerned? That if you don't have the stuff, and watch George Carlin's take on it, by the way. Um, he had a great bit about stuff. But it was a profound thought that he had. And outside of his core audience, nobody fucking listened. And I doubt that people will listen to me right now outside of my core audience. And I am grateful for you, the viewer, that's listening to this. But the reality is we have too many labels. We have not enough equity, where less than 1% today control the frickin' wealth of the planet. Where oligarchs in Russia control the Russian Duma, their parliament, their seat of power, their house. Where do you think Putin gets his fucking power from? You have in China, where the party has given the leadership complete control. It was moving towards a more democratic system. Even after Tiananmen Square, there was still a glimmer of hope. But not now. Now it's moved way back. We have moved that, they have moved their clock back, and their peasant population has no say in how their government is run. North Korea. Everyone should know about North Korea at this point in time. There is no government. It's a family dictatorship. And there's not a damn thing anybody can do about it unless they do it internally. But that's up to them. Look at what's happening in the US right now. That's a joke. Where once individuals looked up to the US, now Americans, sorry dudes, sorry ladies and gentlemen, if you're an American and you're living south of the 49th parallel, and if you don't know what that is, get a book. But if you're living south of the 49th parallel, you're fucked. You have an entire political party, yes, the Republicans, that has given up their power. They have given up their responsibility to an orange-faced idiot, and there's not a damn thing that they can do about it, because I do not want to be around anywhere in the US come November's election if he loses, because all hell's going to break loose. The human race is doomed. I see no advancement moving forward. I see no pause. You can't push a stop button or a pause button. You want to be able to push the pause button and say, whoa, people, stop, breathe, take a step back. There are individuals that do control some of those wealth in the planet that are trying. They really are trying. They're taking their wealth and trying to do as much as they can. But it's not going to work, because there are the very tiny minority of wealthy individuals that truly want to help. There's not enough of them. There's far too many of the other people that literally want to take it to their grave or leave it to their fiefdoms. They're within their family hierarchy. And I just can't see the human race get into that Gene Roddenberry-esque Star Trekian universe, that utopia, where we have replicators, where medicine has progressed to the point where we can cure cancers, where the food is not an issue. There's no such thing as food insecurity, where we have fewer. Human beings are stupid as a species. We're not going to get rid of war. Don't be fucking naive. However, we have far too many of them. For reasons of religion? Are you fucking kidding me? You're fighting and killing each other over what god or gods you believe in? Get a life or get the fuck off the planet. because we don't need people like that. You want to believe in a religion, but just believe in it for yourself. If it makes you happy, that's fine. But you have no right to be telling anyone in any other country or even in your own country or your neighborhood who they should or should not love, who they should or should not believe in, or who they should or should not vote for. That is an individual right. But the fact that we have those issues, again, reason number 5,674,852, why we are doomed as a species. We are not moving forward. We couldn't come together to defend ourselves against those aliens coming to probe us. Remember them? We would be doomed as a species if an alien came here. We would be food stock for an alien civilization coming to this planet. We could not get together to save ourselves. We can't even get together in the middle of a bloody pandemic to restrict the spread of the pandemic. Everybody's got their own friggin' opinion. And have you seen the nutbars that are out there believing that it's not even real? Have I got a probe for you? Anyway, this is just my thoughts as to why the human race is doomed, that the species is a doomed species. We need a complete reset. We need to say, stop the presses, push pause, get rid of the idiots. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, we need to educate the populace. An educated population is a powerful population. Again, the most famous comic, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I believe, was George Carlin. And he said it best, where governments don't want, now specifically he was talking at the time about Nixon and the US government and a few other things, but he wasn't wrong and he wasn't far off. Where in general terms, governments don't want and don't like educated populations. If they did, there would be free education, truly free education, but there's too many countries where you have to pay a huge sum to be educated, whether it's primary school or post-secondary in the universities, colleges to you Americans. We shouldn't be where we are in the 21st century. We should be much further ahead on the evolutionary scale. We should be much further ahead on the social scale. We should be much further ahead on the technological scale. But we're not. We're wasting resources. We're killing the planet. And you notice I didn't, by the way, mention ecology and the planet and pollution, because that's a whole different topic right there. That's for a different opinion. But you could probably figure out where I'm going with that one too. But it strikes me as bizarre where we think we are the pinnacle of civilization, where we are so advanced. We're not. We have regressed back to pond scum, some even further. And we've got a hell of a long way to go if we need to fight our way back out of this friggin' cesspool that we've created for ourselves on a global scale. And it's not just one political system over another. It's people in general. People. Not political parties, not ideologies, not language, not color, not religion. All those things play a part in all of this because of the labeling that we do. But people in general, we need to stop labeling. We need to start thinking. We need to start behaving well with each other. We need to get rid of crime and poverty. Matter of fact, getting rid of crime is getting rid of poverty. We need to create equality across the board. Because if we don't do that, if we still have these friggin' nutbars that are running around saying they're better than somebody else because of this, this, and this, if we keep having those people, guess what? We will even regress further back. We are not getting further ahead. We are going backwards. So wake up. Don't listen to me. Don't believe me. But you need to wake up and start listening to reality. Never mind the conspiracy bullshit. Never mind Fox bloody media. They are not a news organization, no matter what they say. And there's a few others like them around the world, not just them. Russia, Pravda, you know who you are. But of all of these things, of all of these places on this planet, there's not one individual country, city, state, province, whatever, that can honestly say they have progressed past somebody else or progressed or the species to move forward. We have all, as a species, moved back. We are only one species of human on this planet, and aliens or not, we ain't going to be the top dog because we're not smart enough for that. But that is just my humble opinion. All right, everybody. I want to thank all of you for joining in. Not to get too serious there, at the end, but we do have a problem. On the next episode, I'm actually going to leave it as a bit of a secret. But on the next episode, one of the things, just as a teaser, we'll deal with the environment. And I might have a surprise couple of reviews for you. All right? We'll do a little entertainment, a light entertainment review. But join me for the next episode. Like and subscribe the video and subscribe to the page, Musings of an Earthbound Alien, and find out when we'll do the next one. You'll get notification for that. Click the little bell. All right, take care. Stay safe out there.